Deputy Adams.
Taoiseach, I want to make three main points about these Anglo Tapes. And Kedrod, it's 5 years since this shameful episode, and not one banker has served 1 day of a prison sentence for their role in bankrupting the state. And ordinary citizens know if they didn't pay their TV licence or these new taxes that you're introducing, that they would face prosecution. And Dara Rudd, Taoiseach, it's clear from this morning's tapes that David Drum and others in Anglo were meeting senior government ministers. Now, we don't need an inquiry to find that out. Micheál Martin and his front bench and others who were in government at that time could tell us who those ministers were. And Taoiseach, do you know who they are? And if you do, would you name them here? And Rud Geranach, Taoiseach, despite representations from Sinn Féin, these banking elites were rewarded by your government. 22 out of the top 50 executives were kept in place. Some of them were given €175,000 a year. It's come with a far namrog, Calagan, Shay, a Hus, Taoiseach Sinn, August August or and Shanachal Shin Taoiseach. David Drum, who featured in these tapes, was given a bonus of nearly €700,000. The Fianna Fáil government of the day allowed this to happen, but your government has continued to protect these bankers and their high-paid jobs. So why, Taoiseach? Why is there a delay in bringing prosecutions? Would you ask the Minister for Justice to seek a report on this?
Thank you, Deputy. Taoiseach.
Well, as I said to you, the bill before the House is the Central Bank Supervision and Enforcement Bill of 2011, which is currently at committee stage, is an extensive and a complex piece of legislation, and that deals actually with the report from Honohan, Nyberg, Regling, Watson, Moriarty and Tribunal reports. The government have published the Houses of the Oireachtas Inquiries, Privileges and Procedures Bill, which once enacted will provide the framework for a parliamentary inquiry system. Deputy Adams is aware that people rejected in a referendum the question that they were being asked in respect of the holding of inquiries. The issue of who met who is one that I think politicians and former politicians should have no problem in addressing when they attend at the parliamentary inquiry. I think it's absolutely imperative in the public interest that these matters be teased out and that they be identified, and that members of governments past who were involved in any of the decisions related to this should be able to attend and give their recollections and their accounts, and also individuals with whom they were associated. As I said, we're in a process here of where there is a trial to be held in the courts, which are completely and utterly independent of anything that I might say. So, in that sense, the question that you asked about the Minister for Justice, you want the Minister for Justice to identify the Minister
for Justice to give us an explanation as to why there's such a delay 5 years on.
Yeah. Well, what I've set out to you is some of the issues that have had to be dealt with by the government here in inheriting this particular mess. That's the central bank legislation. There are investigations going on, as you know, in regard to both the central bank and the Office of the Director of Corporate Enforcement into matters of Anglo-Irish. They should take their course. We had set out to have a referendum of the people about inquiries. That's rejected, so now the legislation is going through here. In the meantime, we've had to deal with this unholy mess at a European level in terms of interest rate reductions, the promissory notes, the question of extension of loan maturities, and trying to get as much recovery as we can for the taxpayer here. So, believe you me, Deputy Adams, I'd be the first to say that what the people want is to see justice done. And this has been a very complex and technical process, which is why you now have tapes emerging of what apparently are very extensive hours of taping, to which I haven't had, obviously, access. But I do think in the public's interest, Deputy, we need to have a parliamentary inquiry, have those personalities and persons involved in this attend at a parliamentary inquiry, give their evidence, so that we can at least get at the truth of the circumstances and the environment which led to that culture culminating in a bank guarantee, which has been reflected in its condescending, arrogant and dismissive way by extracts from tapes played on the national airwaves.
Deputy Adams.
Well, Taoiseach, I asked you if you knew who the ministers are who met these bankers. You didn't answer that question. I mean, Micheál Martin could stand up now and make this clear to us. He's bound to know. Féin knows who met these bankers. Let them make that clear.
Excuse me. Would you please allow the Deputy ask a supplementary question without interruption, please? Thank you.
The other thing, Taoiseach, if there's to be confidence, and there's very little confidence out there at the level of citizenship, if there's to be confidence in how we do our business, and I know that the Oireachtas has to be separate from An Garda Síochána and the judiciary and all of that, I understand all of that. But we have the Minister of Justice able to come in here with tittle-tattle and give us detail. Why can't the Minister of Justice, and why can't you ask the Minister of Justice to supply a report on Garda investigations into these matters? I'm astounded that the Minister of Finance says he didn't know about the existence of these tapes. Because that begs the question, if he didn't know, why didn't he know? Where's Cobb? Why aren't we chasing these people who have defrauded the state, who have put tens of thousands, scores of thousands of our young people across the globe, who have hundreds of thousands on the dole queues? And this government of yours, Taoiseach, if I may say so, has proven once again that there are two laws. There's a law for the ordinary citizen, and I repeat what I said earlier on. If I go into Dunn's store and steal to feed my family, I'll end up before the courts, right? But yet, if bankers deliberately defraud the state, boast about it, laugh about it, boast about their meetings with ministers, it'll be okay. See, and the sickening thing is, they were right. They said it'll be nationalised. They said we'll be made civil servants. They said we'll get 5 years out of it. And then they got their bonuses. So, Taoiseach, with respect, the buck stops with you. What is your government going to do about this? Because this, if these tapes weren't released, we wouldn't be having this discussion.
Thank you.
So what are you going to do about it, Taoiseach?
The buck stops with the government, and I'm going after them. I don't have the authority or the mandate to adjudicate in a court of law as to whether a person or persons have broken the law and should be charged and sentenced or not. Clearly, the people demand justice, and the process of a criminal trial is underway. I would say this to you: when the Department of Finance became aware of the kind of behaviour, questionable behaviour in Anglo-Irish Bank, the Garda Síochána, who are the appropriate authorities here, were informed immediately. You're aware, Deputy Adams, that under statute law, the Gardaí are the responsible body for dealing with criminal investigations into the state. I understand that the tapes that are mentioned were part of the material that was supplied to An Garda Síochána over 4 years ago as part of their investigations into Anglo-Irish Bank, to which they were made aware of the activities and the behaviour which led to those investigations in the first place. And neither the Department of Finance nor the government have previously had access to these tapes, extracts which I've heard played on the airwaves. When you say this government want to see this matter sorted out and want to see the truth known here, Now, I don't know what ministers from previous governments met with these serious, influential bankers. I don't know. We've had evidence of some of them. Deputy Martin would know from purely his own personal ministry, whether he ever met with any of them or not. I'm not suggesting that you did. But there were others in the governments of which you were a member which certainly did. And not only that, but stayed in their company for some time, whether it be at social occasions, whatever. I have no evidence, Deputy Adams, of bankers who came to meet ministers in the Department of the Taoiseach, the number of occasions where meetings took place with previous Taoiseach about this matter. No decisions recorded over there. Can't find any. And if I had them, I'd leave them out here for everybody to see, so that we would start this process. Now, I think that when we get a parliamentary banking inquiry, would any of those politicians refuse to attend at those hearings and give of their accounts, whether they met with these bankers or not, what was discussed, what decisions were taken? Why was it that all of this culture came to a point where it was a continuous stream of pressure on people to take out ever-increasing mortgages, to buy properties at ever-inflated prices, to keep those builders and those friends, both of the banks and of the government, on a path for seemingly endless prosperity, which so many people have now to pay. And I don't take from you at all the question of repayments and banks. You know very well that what we've got to do here is put a process in train where answerability and the truth will come out. Now, don't take any of your ranting behind them either for granted.
Deputy McGrath.